co-hosts on this September the 11th. He is a New York Times best-selling author, retired firefighter safety engineer John Gilstrap. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Former member of the House of Delegates, 26 years, though not concurrent, and a former Deputy Revenue Secretary as well. Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, everybody.
Gentlemen, appreciate you both being here today. Tough day today. More episodes of gun violence in America yesterday. It's also the 24th commemoration as we remember 9/11, 2001. And John, before we get into some other things, I say two Johns today, so Mr. Gilstrap, as a firefighter and EMT in your background, your thoughts on this being the 24th commemoration of 9/11?
I always find it's a very emotional day for me because I know for a fact that those guys and ladies who walked into the Trade Center knew that the building had to collapse because physics are physics and steel fails at 1,500 degrees. And it was a matter of time. I think they were trying to get people out, but when you do the math of it took so long to climb those stairways just to get up, and then they're escorting people down. So the courage that it took for those people to go in and do their jobs, knowing that the likelihood of them coming out was very, very small, but they had to, because who else is going to do it? And that's what these public safety people sign on for. They don't sign on for that specifically, but ultimately that the heroism lies in looking around and realizing, well, damn, I'm the one that has to do this thing. They love their families just as much as anybody else did, and it's just horribly, horribly sad.
Was your unit activated that day to the Pentagon?
I was not part. I had left the fire service by then, but yes. In fact, it is some of my colleagues from the fire department are among the ones at the top of the Pentagon lowering the flag over the edge.
That's moving.
It is. It's yeah.
Yeah. I remember at that time I used to cover the firefighters parade at the Apple Blossom Festival in Winchester. John, they do that every spring, and I would have the Friday night firefighters parade is a big part of welcoming in the whole Apple Blossom Festival.
Yeah.
It's the night before the big grand feature parade and such, and I would always have a firefighter from Virginia there with me as he would call out the apparatus and describe what they were and what they did and the company and the people he knew there and such. And I was the guy that, kept the assembly line rolling, so to speak. And I remember in 2002, the first time after 9/11, doing that parade and discussing off the air and saying they should have never sent those firefighters into that building. They had to know it was going to collapse and all those people would die. He looked at me and he said, "That's what we do."
But they got a bunch of them out. More would have died in the building had they not gone in.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was that's the sacrifices that people
Right.
make, as John said. It's an emotional day.
Yes.
Professionally, of course.
Yeah.
So we remember 9/11 today as well. And then, of course, the news yesterday with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We had another school shooting as well. And it was another day of gun violence in America, to the point where, and this was, of all the interviews I heard yesterday, this is the one that resonated with me most. It was an interview with someone who was present at the site at the college where the shooting took place. And this person was talking about being there with his sister, just to the right of the stage, but off to the side, not in with the crowd because it was too much of a crowd to get close, and describing what they witnessed. And at the end, the interviewer asked, "How are you and your sister doing?" And they said, "Oh, okay, fine." And I think maybe 50 years ago, you would have been more traumatized if you were an eyewitness to an assassination. And it seems like we are just numb to gun violence now in this country, to the point where some 20-something who's on hand in that area and sees it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we're fine." It seems like the reaction should be strong. Like, you shouldn't be fine after you see that. No, you shouldn't be. It shouldn't be something that you're so used to hearing about and seeing that you're going, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Well, I don't know.
In other words, it's just too common.
I think you have to be careful in judging that, because if somebody put a camera in my face after something like that, I would be absolutely stoic and dismissive. I'm not going to share my emotions with a camera.
I agree. I would be too.
But you've been to war, John.
Yeah, and
you were an EMT who responded to things, John, that most people will never see in their lives.
Right.
Right? So you're probably a little bit number to tragedy than most people would be who aren't supposed to be used to it. I remember the first time I saw a car crash, like up close, when I was a teenager. It affected me deeply.
It's hard to describe how in the level of disrespect that we felt when we were working a car crash, and some guy with a camera shows up and he's getting in the middle of it and trying to take pictures of somebody's worst day. They start asking questions. I actually had a guy put in a police car one time because he was just in my way and he was pissing me off. And they don't belong there. This is a private moment for people who are having their worst day, certainly this week. And they are, I'm sorry, they're scum at that point. Anybody that is in, I know they have a job to do, but their job sucks. And I have very little respect for the people who do that, and to put microphones in people's faces. So if it were me, I would push the microphone away. I'd have no interest in participating.
Final comment from you, Mr. Doyle.
I also think the two people you're talking about, it's also possible they were in shock.
Mm-hmm. It's possible. Yeah. This is also a segment we set aside for the two of you to discuss politics from interesting angles and perspectives. And Mr. Gilstrap, you can go first this week. All
right. Actually, there's an odd tie-in. I came with the topic before the events of yesterday. In 1776, the Continental Congress kind of set the entire world on its ear with a single sentence from the Declaration of Independence, which said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, so obvious as to be beyond debate, that all men are created equal, that monarchs and citizens walk in unity, that they endowed by their creator," right? Nature's God, as also in the Declaration, "with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And then 1787, the Constitution was ratified, which begins, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, and to secure the blessings of liberty," blessings as bestowed upon us by God, "to ourselves and posterity to ordain and establish the Constitution." The founders of the country understood that human rights were organic to humanity, as organic as blood and bone. Alexander Hamilton wrote, "The sacred rights of mankind are not to be rummaged for among old parchments or musty records. They are written as with a sunbeam in the whole volume of human nature by the hand of the divinity itself, and can never be erased or obscured by mortal power." And then we have the Constitution, its first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, which recognize that government is inherently corrupt, that government will try to take these natural rights away. So when we look at the First Amendment, Congress will make no law abridging the freedom of speech, religion, or what have you. Second Amendment, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons and belongings shall not be violated. The Fifth Amendment, no person shall be compelled to testify. The Constitution is constructed around protecting the people from the government. It's not about empowering the government to give the people rights. So now comes Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, who was jolted into anger when Riley Barnes, a nominee to serve as Assistant Secretary of Labor for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, whatever that is, he said in his testimony that all men are created equal because our rights come from God, our Creator, and not from laws and not from government. Well, Senator Kaine said, "The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the Creator, That's what this, I'm quoting now. That's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Jews, Christians, and others. They do it because they believe that they understand what the natural rights are from the Creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling. Then he doubled down, saying, I'm a strong believer in natural rights, but I have a feeling that if we were to have a debate about natural rights in the room and put people around the table with different religious traditions, there would be some significant differences in the definitions of those natural rights. So what I see here is kind of a raw, it lays bare the difference between conservatives and progressives, that there's this moral relativism that really shouldn't exist and never existed within the Constitution. So here's my question for the discussion. Are the rights we have as Americans truly unalienable as bestowed by nature and nature's God, or are they granted by the people in Washington and the state houses?
Mr. Doyle?
The answer is they are unalienable, and they are given to us by our Creator. However, if the government doesn't guarantee those rights, they're meaningless. Now, what Senator Kaine said, it was a really dumb thing to say, and he said it in a ham-handed way.
And he doubled down.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant.
Okay.
It's okay. I've met Tim Kaine. I had an hour and a half conversation with him one time, and I was impressed that he's a very level-headed person, and he is also a very devout Catholic. So it surprises me that he said that. But I do believe, and I will disagree with you, John Gilstrap, on one thing. The Bill of Rights was written as a reaction to the Constitution itself, which was a construct to say, here is what government shall do. And what happened was, after they came up with the Constitution, there were a number of people around the country, some of them very learned people, that said, well, wait a minute, you guys forgot to write in there that there are certain things that the government cannot do to people. And so many of the debates in the states were, we'll ratify this Constitution upon the condition that there be a Bill of Rights. And so they put that in there. So it is like you had the Declaration, which was a guarantee of rights against the government. You then had the main body of the Constitution, which is, here is what the government can and shall do. And then you had, again, okay, you've got what the government can and shall do, but here's what it's not permitted to do. So I think it has worked. I really think that if he thinks about it or has thought about it, that Senator Kaine would agree with me that these rights are unalienable, but in order for them to really work, the government has to be required to guarantee them.
I've just seen, and this is it's raw. The assassination of Charlie Kirk kind of plays into this, which was, one guy with a rifle is not a spokesman for anybody but the guy with the rifle, and I say that, but I admit that. But it is a silencing of free speech. It's an attempted lesson in front of 2,000 college students that, hey, listen, if you don't say the right thing, this is what happens to you. And to me, there's been an assault on free speech, on anything that challenges the established orthodoxy of the past 15, 20 years, highlighted by the COVID restrictions. You will not go to church. You will wear your mask. You will not hang out with people. You know, all that stuff that was accepted and so freely embraced by people, which was the government telling people what rights they can exercise. And I am really concerned that people don't understand, and I don't think we teach in schools, that we run the government. We don't have to do. They do what we say until they pass the law, and once the law is passed, then we're stuck with it. But I don't think people understand now that it starts with us. We the people, of the people, by the people, for the people.
Actually, I think we do. And I don't think incidents like the one yesterday where Charlie Kirk was murdered really play into this. There is, at the moment, and there have been other times in our past where we've had this, where some people, a very small minority, feel that they have the right to silence people who disagree with them, and you have them on the left and on the right. I mean, the guy that broke into the Pelosi home in San Francisco, and beat Mr. Pelosi to a pulp. The guy, this fundamentalist Christian who entered Mother Emanuel Church and killed a dozen people. But at the same time, you had folks on the left who the guy that murdered or tried to murder Steve Scalise at the baseball practice.
Person who tried to kill Gabby Giffords.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Pennsylvania governor's house. All that.
That's exactly right. Now, in some of these cases, they're just people who are nuts. And don't have a philosophy, but in some cases they do. So I think we have to guard against this. But this is it's ultimately it boils down to law enforcement.
So at what point do the senior politicians, right, the guys at the top, the ones who own the Twitterverse and are on the news every night, at what point on both sides, at what point do they embrace their ownership of the anger that they've fomented? And at what point do we? It's the viewership. I guess that's it. I mean, law enforcement cannot stop people from clicking on the stuff that brings the ad revenue to the hot sites, and that's what's fomenting the anger. I don't know how this spiral stops. And I come back to something I've said so many times. The whole American experiment is nothing but an idea. And if we lose the faith and the trust, we lose everything.
I agree.
John, that moves us to your turn now on the point to counterpoint.
It's been more than 2 weeks since the summit in Anchorage. I can't remember how many more, but it's more than 2 weeks. And after President Trump gave Vladimir Putin the red carpet treatment in Anchorage, he said, "I'll decide in a couple of weeks whether he's serious and whether I'm going to hit him with something stronger." He has yet to do so. Putin is getting more and more aggressive, as we saw yesterday with actually what I think is pushing the boundary by sending drones into Poland, which is as we all know, a NATO country. And I just wonder why it is that President Trump doesn't understand that he's the leader of the free world. And when something like this happens, the only answer is to say, Vladimir, that's it. It's funny. He's put tremendous sanctions on India, ostensibly because they're cooperating with Russia, but none on Russia itself. And I'm just confused by all this. So my question is, what's it going to take to get President Trump to finally say, we're going to give Ukraine all it needs to bloody Vladimir Putin's nose, and by doing so, stop the war?
As far as the India thing is concerned, I believe that is to choke off Russia's revenue for oil from India, right? That and to starve Russia. It's a long play. I'm not sure what you want Trump to do. As far as drones flying over Poland, I believe, launched F-16s or whatever, launched aircraft to shoot them down, and was fairly successful in that effort. I think the NATO countries need to defend NATO countries. As far as pumping more and more money into Ukraine, I don't know. Ukraine cannot win this war. And I hate to see Russia doing what it's doing. I think Russia should be at the table to discuss treaty terms. And maybe we could give we could give Ukraine all kinds of weaponry, and Ukraine could fire them for, whatever you want to give them, short of nuclear weapons. Russia has a history. They don't care about their people. They're going to continue to hammer Ukraine until they get whatever they want. So I don't know. I don't know an answer to that question. I don't know what you want Trump to do.
First of all, what do you mean by when you say Ukraine can't win the war? War, as von Clausewitz said, is an extension of diplomacy. It's diplomacy by a different means, and it depends on what your goals are. I do think that militarily, we could give Ukraine enough support that they could make sure it's a tie, and at some point, either Putin will realize that he's got to settle for a tie, or he'll be replaced by someone who does.
And there's the secret.
Yeah.
As long as Putin is in his chair, there's nothing, I believe, and the people I talk to, as long as Putin is in his chair, there is nothing we can throw at Putin. We're not going to trigger a nuclear war, right? So that's off the table. The
That's
big
right.
stuff is off the table. So there's nothing in the conventional arsenal that Ukraine can throw at Russia is that going to get Russia to stop. Putin is too deeply into this. So he's overplayed his hand, and he knows it. If he were to surrender, he's dead. He knows that. He would lose everything. So I don't know what the solution is, but as long as Putin is in his chair, if the war is going to stop, it's up to Zelensky to surrender.
To surrender?
Yeah.
We can't have that.
Okay. We can't have it. It's not our country.
Oh, yeah, but it is. Because ultimately, what happens to NATO affects us here in the United States.
Zelensky is not NATO. This is the folly of it all, and this is what kind of
You're sounding like Neville Chamberlain.
I am not being Neville Chamberlain.
You are.
Look,
give him the Sudetenland. It's not important.
It is not ours to give. If Zelensky if we had given Zelensky early on, it's like starting a fire, right? If you put out the first building in Chicago when it first starts, you have a chance of winning. Mm-hmm. We let this thing go. We invited Putin to invade Ukraine. We didn't give the weapons we needed to defeat it early on, back when Russia was really kind of on its knees early. And back when our technology hadn't been hacked by the Russians, we didn't win the war when we had the chance. Now we got the Chicago fire. And you can't, sometimes the way you put out the fire is the fire burns itself out. It's up to Zelensky at this point.
No, it is not. It is up to us. And we don't have to give him money. I mean, he wants to buy all these weapons. That helps our economy if we keep selling him weapons. And we keep selling NATO weapons that they give to him. All we have to do is let them have the kinds of weapons he needs to bring the front to a standstill. And then I think you will eventually see Putin or somebody say, you know what, we'll agree to take what we have on the ground and no more, and we'll call it a victory.
So we give Zelensky strategic missiles that can hit Moscow, and he sends non-nuclear missiles into Moscow, and now we're killing people in Moscow. How long do you think that's going to go before?
No. First of all, not strategic missiles. There's something called ATACMS. They're tactical,
right?
And you can't hit Moscow with them, but you can hit their military bases much farther behind the line. And if you do that, you can bring the war to a standstill.
Or you escalate it.
On that note, gentlemen, your time is up.